Thanks for checking out this episode of Screen Facts with Jason Davis. Each episode will discuss a movie we like and share some fun trivia. Please like us at facebook.com/screenfacts. Post your comments or questions. You can also email screenfacts@yahoo.com or tweet @JasonDavisVoice. This podcast is a production of Jason Davis Voiceover. Please visit jasondavisvoice.com for information about voiceover services for commercials, internet and corporate videos, e-learning, phone messages, and more. I'm Jason Davis, and joining me for this episode is my good pal, Erik Reitz. Erik, how are you?
Hey, Jason. I'm all right. How are you?
Good. It's been a little more than a year since we've done an episode of Screen Facts.
And I've missed it horribly. I've went into having hippie shakes and stuff, and I'm glad that you decided to bring it back.
Well, you know what happened? I wanted to do something different. So you and I came up with a different podcast.
Right.
And we were doing that for a little bit. And then we realized that was a lot more work than this.
Well, you know what? And we were pretty stupid to not figure that out, because we went from, you had this format where we talk about one movie.
Right.
And when we went to the ranking things, when we talked about the baseball movies, I had to watch like 8 movies just to be able to say I had a pretty good sample of,
right.
I could choose from.
This is always a lot of fun to pick a movie that we really like and, kind of geek out about it a little bit and find some fun trivia facts about it too. And so without any further ado, the movie that you and I are going to discuss today on the podcast is the 1984 classic, Revenge of the Nerds.
And this is very apropos because it is September and people are going back to school or they're starting school. I saw this in the theaters when it came out. I had just finished my first year of college.
Okay.
And it was just a whole lot of fun. When you brought this movie up, I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. This is great. Let's do this one.
It's just a fun, stupid college movie. It's kind of like part Animal House and part teen movie.
But it also has a lot of there's a moral to it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, don't judge a book by its cover.
So watching this movie again to prepare for the podcast, it was clear to me that it doesn't really play the same in 2018 as it did in 1984 for a couple of reasons. One, it's politically incorrect, very much so.
Big time.
And then the other thing is that nerds are kind of accepted now. They're not even nerds anymore. They're cool, and they're shaping the future. So you're watching like all these guys get bullied in the movie. In today's world, the alpha betas would be working for them.
Exactly. When you're talking about the political incorrectness, which happens a lot in the movies that we talk about from the 80s.
Right.
One of the biggest things rewatching it that really hit me was what I affectionately call the raping of Betty Child, because that's the scene where Lewis is dressed as Darth Vader,
right?
And she thinks it's her boyfriend, the quarterback,
right?
And it's funny because that quarterback, that actor, he was in a whole bunch of other stuff, like, Married with Children.
Yep, Ted McGinley.
He was in the last couple seasons of Happy Days
and The Love Boat.
Yeah, and Love Boat too. Yeah, yep. I barely even remembered anything.
He joined the Love Boat later on, like toward the end of that series too, as like the ship's photographer or something.
Yeah, something weird. Maybe he's just got some bad juju on him that he shows up to a show and then it goes bad. So Lewis brings her in. They go in the bouncy house or the fun house or whatever, and he performs oral sex on her because he's kept the mask on.
Right.
I mean, obviously he had to take it off at some point, but I guess at that point.
But she's in ecstasy, I guess, so she doesn't care.
Right. But then when he finishes and then she's like, hey, you're that nerd.
It totally was a #MeToo moment in the movie, for sure.
Yeah. I don't want my boys doing that.
God, no. Yeah, so that's a perfect example of how different this, the times were when this movie was made.
And of course, one of the best lines, most quoted lines that came out of that when, she says, oh, are all nerds as good as you?
Yeah.
He says, well, jocks just think about sports all day. Nerds, we just think about sex.
Right.
And I was like, wow, yeah. I'm a nerd. That's all I'm thinking about.
I'm sure jocks think about sex all day, too. Who we kidding here?
Yeah, they must.
So, Revenge of the Nerds released August 10th, 1984, starring Robert Carradine, Anthony Edwards, the great Curtis Armstrong, who was a staple of a lot of great 80s comedies, Timothy Busfield, and John Goodman in one of his first roles, I think.
Yep.
The story written by Tim Metcalf, Miguel Tejada Flores, Steve Zacharias, and Jeff Buhai. Screenplay written by Steve Zacharias and Jeff Buhai. Directed by Jeff Canoe. When Canoe was interviewed by the producers, they asked what kind of movie he thought he could make given the material. And he said, one I would be embarrassed to have my name on. And they hired him immediately.
Yeah, I think it's great. They actually went to the University of Arizona and they got permission to shoot the movie there. But then when they saw the script, they wanted to back out of it. So, Canu went there and apparently said to them, look, I have kids. And I'll just tell you now, I would let them see this movie. It's about the triumph of the underdog.
That's true.
It's not, it's not judging a book by its cover. This is a good movie. And I think he was right, but I could just imagine how horrified, some of like the Board of Regents or whatever must have been when they're filming like all these panty raids in the middle of the night.
So since you brought up the panty raid scene, one of the things that Sue and I noticed when we were watching the movie last night is that clearly that's not the interior of the pie house. Clearly, when they're doing the panty raid stuff and they're running through the hallways and all that, they're in like a hotel or something. It was probably just logistically easier to film that scene in like a hotel, running through the halls and all that, than like in a house that doesn't actually have a structured hallway and all that.
When they're doing the panty raid, a couple of the nerds go up into the attic, and they drill a hole through the ceiling and they put in this camera in a girl's room. You're seeing behind her, this big hole getting drilled in the ceiling, this big camera being lowered down. And you're like, are you kidding? None of them are seeing this? Right.
And I'm sorry. I don't care if there's a, quote, built-in silencer or not. You're going to hear, like, drywall being cut. I mean, there's no way. And then, like, the big hole happens in the wall. And then, like, and how come, like, they don't notice any of the cameras? Because, I mean, I know most of the cameras are up in the attic, but then he put like a periscope in one of them. So the periscope has to be extended down into the room, right?
Yeah. And the business end of the camera is facing down into the room.
Right. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff in the movie. We're not here to shit on the movie, obviously.
No, love the movie.
We love the movie. Love, like you said, the underdog winning in the end. Spoiler alert. And you know that they didn't have a gigantic budget for this either. I mean, the budget was
like $6 million or something.
Like $8 million is what I read. They must have spent most of the $8 million budget on acquiring the rights for all the music. Thriller, We Are the Champions.
Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
Nah, that's probably public domain. Is my guess. I'm trying to think what other. Burning Down the House by Talking Heads.
Oh, that's right.
It grossed $40.9 million. So it made money enough to make 3 sequels. And the only characters to appear in all the movies are Lewis, his dad, Lamar, and Booger.
Now, Lamar, what a great character that guy was.
Oh, my God.
One of the things that I really was keen on watching was the fraternity games or whatever. And then the idea that, the fraternity that wins the Greek games gets to head the Greek council. I mean, that's stupid.
Well, that makes sense for the story.
Well, it does. And and that's the thing. Like, this movie has so many great scene after scene after scene, but they all flow together and it actually does make a very cohesive story. And so you can talk about the scene where they're having the party. You can talk about the panty raid scene. The end of this movie was great when they're doing like the music scene, when Poindexter's playing the friggin' electric violin and he's got the spiked hair.
Yeah.
That he just looks so great. And then Lewis and Gilbert, they're all devoed out.
Yeah.
Wearing the doing the computer things. It was so cool. And as we're watching that, I'm like, man, they really need a guitar. And then boom, there comes Booger
Presley on the mean guitar.
And Lamar's doing the dancing and all that.
I read a cool fact actually about the violin playing that Poindexter does.
Yeah.
When he's like practicing violin in the house for like the whole movie,
right?
Not really playing well and stuff,
right?
He's actually practicing what he ends up playing at the end.
Oh, really?
It's just that he's playing it so slow that it's not really recognizable. But if you pay attention next time you watch it, you'll probably notice that it's
because he didn't really play violin.
No, he's not. The actor's not actually playing. Like he did the movement and then they dubbed in like a real violinist playing stuff. There's a lot of great stuff that happens during the Olympiad sequence. The way they give Takashi the stuff so he doesn't get drunk. And then, of course, the belching contest.
Booger's belch. You know what that sound effect actually is?
It's a combination of an actual belch and a camel orgasming.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine having that long an orgasm?
Lucky camel, right? One of the other iconic noises in the movie, too, is the nerd laugh. Yeah, exactly.
I just hurt my throat doing that.
Robert Carradine said that when he read the script, Lewis's laugh was described as a goose honk, and he wasn't really sure how to make that sound. it turns out that the first scenes that they shot for the movie were the scenes where the father drops them off at the college.
Right.
And James Cromwell did the laugh, and Carradine just kind of mimicked him. Cromwell's driving home from the set after the first day of production, and he realized that's how his ex-wife laughed. So,
man.
You never know where you're going to get inspiration, I guess.
We talk how much we like this movie and that there was some real impact. In 2006, the University of Connecticut created a co-ed social fraternity that's not officially affiliated with the Greek life, and they called it Lambda Lambda Lambda.
Yeah, they wanted to have an organization where everybody's accepted kind of thing, which I think is really cool.
One of my other favorite scenes in general is when they finally find the house and they start fixing it up. Because, I love old houses. I love, fixing them up and stuff. And just all the goofy stuff. It's like a Rocky montage of them just fixing the house up. It just felt like, wow, these guys are really doing something.
Oh, you know what's cool about the song from that scene? That was actually used by Seth MacFarlane in Ted 2 as an homage to this. There's like a montage in that movie where they use the song too. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's actually some cool casting things too that I read.
Okay.
So Curtis Armstrong, who I love him. I actually got his audiobook, Revenge of the Nerd, or The Singular Adventures of the Man Who Would Be Booger. A great autobiography. I got the audiobook because he reads it. And so it's really cool to hear him talk about his experiences, with all the movies that he was a part of in the 80s.
Right.
And he was a part of some pretty popular 80s comedies. So Risky Business, Better Off Dead, One Crazy Summer. He's super funny in all of them. And then he was on Moonlighting, and then he ended up being in the movie Ray with Jamie Foxx. He played Ahmet Ertegun in Ray. I mean, he's a serious actor, like trained in Shakespeare and stuff. And when he originally was offered a part in this, he wanted to read for the Gilbert role. And he said that if they offer him the role of Booger, they could just fucking forget it. I'm not going to pick my nose on camera for anyone. And, he sells it. And now he's kind of embraced the whole character. Yeah. In addition to the autobiography, he and Robert Carradine hosted a reality show for a couple of seasons on TBS called King of the Nerds, which I'm sorry was canceled because it was really, really good. So, he's totally embraced the role of Booger. So
I thought Booger was actually kind of cool.
And I was actually thinking about that before. Booger certainly fits in with a group of quote unquote misfits, but to me, he's not really nerdy.
No, I didn't think he was nerdy, except for like the whole booger thing. I mean, it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
I mean, he used it to his advantage.
Yeah, with the arm
when
wrestling.
He was doing the arm wrestling, and he picked his nose and put it, put it in his hand, and then the girl freaked out. And but yeah, I just thought he wore some really cool T-shirts, and I love T-shirts. I got all kinds of crazy T-shirts. I like the one when they're painting the house. And he's trying to get Tekashi. He's trying to get him stoned, and Tekashi is, painting the walls. And he's like, "I feel nothing. I feel nothing." And then all of a sudden, he passes out and he pulls the paint across the wall.
Right.
Very funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, the T-shirt that Booger's wearing says, "Give me head till I'm dead." Very cool.
To me, Booger is less a nerd and just more a slob than anything else.
Yeah.
But he's a great character and certainly one of the funnier things in the movie.
Yeah.
What the fuck are Robster Craws?
Robster Craws.
What the fuck's a frush?
Gilbert says, "She's not that kind of girl." And Booker says, "What? Does she have a penis?" Some great quotes there.
And one of the other things, too, is that the character of Booger wasn't really fleshed out. They had a basic idea of what he was going to be like, basically just kind of gross and stuff. But a lot of stuff is improvised. The director just kind of let the actors have fun with this, too. I like that it kind of borrows from a lot of other funny movies. I mentioned before that there's elements of Animal House, but also the scene when the Moos show up at the Tri-Lamb party. Booger opens the door and they're just walking in one after another, and then he starts to close the door, and then more come in and all that.
Yeah.
That is right out of Risky Business.
Oh,
which is another movie that Curtis Armstrong is in, which is very interesting. There's a scene in Risky Business where all of the hookers, walk in a succession like that. So. There were a couple of other casting notes that I thought were kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Ted McGinley, who plays Stan Gable, the lead Alpha Beta, he actually turned down the role of Ryko in Bachelor Party, which is another classic 80s comedy, to be in this movie. Jamie Gertz, Joan Cusack, and Sarah Jessica Parker all auditioned for the role of Judy, played by Michelle Mayrink. And Mayrink also had a role in Real Genius, which is another funny 80s movie She was Jordan in that movie. Larry B. Scott, who plays Lamar, showed up for his audition in character with glitter in his hair, and he said that the casting directors just couldn't stop laughing.
The guy that played Poindexter.
Timothy Busfield.
I remember years later seeing him on 30-something.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing with him dancing, just standing still, and then he just starts like slowly thrusting his pelvis and everything. It's great. Apparently, he put together that costume. He found that at like a thrift store, and he parted his hair on the side, and he put on those thick glasses, and he really could not see. So he needed somebody to escort him in to meet the producers. And, they took a look at him and just like, you're in, man. Yeah. He looks so different in this movie from other parts. Like he was also in Field of Dreams. He played Kevin Costner's brother-in-law in Field of Dreams. Oh, right. Who's trying to get him to sell the farm the whole movie. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a very different part for him compared to some of the other stuff he's done in his career. Yeah. I've read, and I was kind of sad that sometime in the 2000s, a remake was being made, and it just kind of fell apart. Yeah, it was. I think a remake could be really good. They started filming it in Atlanta in 2006. It was supposed to come out in 2007. It was Fox Atomic Studio was going to put it out, division of 20th Century Fox. The studio head at the time, Peter Reitz, didn't like what he was seeing in the dailies. Okay. And so they just kind of scrapped it. Wow. I feel like you can leave certain things be. You don't have to try to catch lightning in a bottle all the time, because like this movie is definitely very much of its time. And it's the 80s were, I guess, a little bit more innocent or whatever. And this came together because it had all the right ingredients. People who were willing to go for it. Nowadays, they would probably throw more money at it, and it would lose a lot of its charm, is my guess. Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. I mean, I do think that you could make some sort of new Nerds movie with just the technology that's around there. And then, of course, you throw some women in there that are geniuses, too, and actually see them being part of it. The Omega Moos were, they were there, and they were, Tri-Lamb's partners, but we didn't really get to really know any of the Omega Moos. And I think Judy, that would be a cool thing to Gilbert's girlfriend, kind of like, she was very smart. Maybe that's what they would do. Instead of it being a fraternity, it would be a sorority that's being ridiculed or something, Right. Because that seems to be what they do. They take a popular 80s movie, and then they just put a female spin on it instead, like what they did with Ghostbusters. Yeah. This movie is dumb, but it's a lot of fun. So sophomoric. Yes. Yeah, here we are laughing about it. I'm in my 50s. Yep, exactly. Anytime I rewatch these movies that I enjoyed when I was younger, I'm still kind of seeing them through my younger eyes. Yeah. Well, Screen Facts with Jason Davis is a production of Jason Davis VoiceOver. Please visit jasondavisvoice.com if you need a voice for a commercial, internet and corporate video, e-learning, phone message, and more. Remember, we want to know what you think. Please like the Facebook page, leave your comments or questions at facebook.com/screenfacts, email screenfacts@yahoo.com, or tweet @JasonDavisVoice. I'm Jason Davis. Thanks, Erik Reitz, for joining me for this episode. And thanks to you for listening to the Screen Facts with Jason Davis podcast.